A physician walked recovered cancer patients into the United States Senate. The bill to fund his research failed by 4 votes. A nurse treated dying patients for free for 40 years. 55,000 citizens signed a petition demanding her treatment be legalized. The government filed it away. A Nobel Prize-winning discovery took 23 years to reach patients. A $1 per day drug showed cancer survival benefits across 20 years of independent global research. Nobody funded the trial. These are not theories. These are Senate records, Nobel citations, peer-reviewed journals, FDA filings. All publicly accessible, all ignored. What you are about to hear is the story of 10 medical breakthroughs documented by credentialed scientists, supported by clinical evidence, and witnessed by government bodies that were abandoned because the economics of saving lives made them unprofitable to pursue. Not suppressed by a villain, not hidden in a vault. Simply left unfunded, unsponsored, economically invisible. Each discovery existed. Each had evidence. Each had witnesses. And each one ran directly into the same wall, a system that funds what can be owned and ignores everything else. These are the 10 discoveries that never made it out. Max Gerson and metabolic therapy. He wasn't just a physician. He was a doctor who walked recovered cancer patients into the United States Senate and still lost. In the 1930s, Dr. Max Gerson developed a metabolic therapy protocol, raw organic juices, coffee enemas, strict dietary intervention originally for tuberculosis. By the 1940s, he extended it to cancer patients and was documenting recoveries. In 1946, he brought 5 recovered patients before a U.S. Senate subcommittee. A bill was introduced to fund $100 million in clinical research. It failed by 4 votes. His medical license was revoked. His 1,958 book, documenting 50 recovered cases, was ignored by every major journal. Official explanation? The NCI found his evidence insufficiently controlled. But here's the problem. Several recovered patients were independently examined by outside physicians who confirmed both the original diagnosis and the recovery. That testimony is on the public record. The license was revoked anyway, and the world was forced to move on. René Caisse Essiac. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a woman who treated dying patients for free and spent 40 years fighting the Canadian government for the right to keep doing it. In 1922, René Caisse received a handwritten herbal formula from a patient passed down from an Ojibwe medicine man. 4 herbs: burdock root, sheep sorrel, slippery elm, Turkish rhubarb. She named it Essiac, her surname, reversed, and began treating terminal patients in Bracebridge, Ontario. She charged nothing. By the 1930s, over 55,000 Canadians had signed a petition demanding legalization. In 1938, a bill to legalize Essiac failed in the Ontario legislature by 3 votes. Official explanation? Sloan Kettering reviewed samples in the 1970s. Insufficient evidence. But here's the problem. Sloan Kettering's own lead researcher, Dr. Chester Stock, documented internally that Essiac components showed tumor-inhibiting activity in mice. That finding was never published. Caisse died in 1978. The petition sits in a government archive. And the world moved on. Laetrile and the vitamin B17 theory. He wasn't just a biochemist. Ernst T. Krebs Jr. believed cancer had a nutritional cause and a nutritional answer. In the 1970s, Laetrile, derived from apricot seeds, also called amygdalin, became one of the most contested compounds in American medical history. Krebs claimed it released targeted cyanide directly at cancer cells while leaving healthy tissue undamaged. At its peak, an estimated 70,000 Americans were using it. Cost per dose, pennies. The FDA banned it. Criminally prosecuted distributors. Official explanation? A 1,982 NCI study of 175 patients found no measurable tumor reduction and significant cyanide toxicity risk. But here's the problem. The trial enrolled exclusively late-stage, severely advanced patients, a population where almost no compound shows measurable response. Independent researchers in Japan and Germany continued publishing cytotoxic activity data in controlled lab settings. The ban remained permanent. The patients kept crossing the border, and the world moved on. Stanislaw Burzynski and Antineoplastons. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a biochemist who believed the body already carried the solution. In the 1970s, Dr. Stanislaw Burzynski identified peptide compounds in human urine that appeared to reprogram abnormal cancer cells, switching off malignant behavior rather than destroying surrounding tissue. His Houston clinic began treating patients, including children with terminal brain tumors. Families documented complete remissions. Their cases reached congressional hearings. The FDA launched a decade-long legal investigation. A grand jury was convened twice. Official explanation? No. Phase 3 randomized controlled trial has been completed. But here's the problem. Throughout that same investigation, spanning over 3 decades, the FDA simultaneously authorized Burzynski to continue treating patients under compassionate use exemption. If the treatment had zero merit, the authorization had zero justification. Families submitted MRI evidence of tumor reduction directly to congressional hearings. That evidence is on the public record. The Phase 3 trial was never funded, and the world moved on. William Coley and Bacterial Immunotherapy. He wasn't just a surgeon. He was the man who discovered the future of cancer treatment in 1891 and watched medicine bury it for 60 years. Dr. William Coley observed that cancer patients who developed serious post-surgical bacterial infections sometimes experienced complete, unexpected tumor regression. He studied it. He developed a formula of heat-killed bacteria, Coley's toxins, and treated inoperable cancer patients over decades. Independent reviews showed remission rates in specific cancers comparable to modern chemotherapy. Then, radiation therapy arrived. Measurable, patentable, fundable, Coley's work was labeled inconsistent, removed from treatment protocols. He died in 1936, largely dismissed. Official explanation? His trials lacked standardization. Results varied too widely. But here's the problem. They called Coley's work unstandardized in 1936. Then, in 2018, they gave the Nobel Prize in Medicine to the exact same mechanism, activating the innate immune system to attack tumor cells. The discovery was real. It was buried for 60 years. And the world moved on, until 6 decades later, they realized he had been right the entire time. Hulda Clark and the parasite toxin theory. She wasn't just a fringe figure. She held a PhD in physiology from the University of Minnesota. In the 1990s, Dr. Hulda Clark published a claim that chronic disease, including cancer, resulted from a specific combination: parasitic infection and environmental pollutant exposure. Her proposed solution was the Zapper, a low-voltage electrical device she claimed could eliminate parasitic organisms from the human body. Her book sold millions of copies across 3 continents. The FTC charged her with making unsubstantiated health claims. No regulatory body ever validated her device. Official explanation? The parasite she identified is not endemic to the United States. Her mechanism was scientifically unverifiable. But here's the problem. Clark's core framework, that parasitic organisms and chemical toxins interact with cellular behavior to drive disease, is now a documented, actively funded research field in mainstream oncology. They dismissed her parasite theory as pseudoscience. Today, oncology is spending millions studying those exact same links. Her specific claims remain unproven. Her broader direction was not entirely wrong. And the world moved on without acknowledging the difference. The 1910 Flexner report. This one wasn't an invention. It was a document. And it wasn't a doctor who decided what medicine looked like. It was an oil tycoon. In 1910, the Carnegie Foundation, backed significantly by John D. Rockefeller, who held major financial interests in the petrochemical and pharmaceutical industries, commissioned Abraham Flexner to evaluate medical schools across North America. His report recommended closing every institution that did not follow a single standardized biomedical model. Homeopathic colleges, gone. Eclectic medicine schools, Gone. Naturopathic institutions. Gone. Within a decade, over half of all U.S. medical schools had permanently shut down. Official explanation? The report eliminated low-quality, unregulated institutions lacking scientific standards. But here's the problem. The schools that survived were almost exclusively teaching drug-based, patentable treatment models. Entire therapeutic traditions with centuries of documented use were eliminated without a single clinical trial disproving them. The financial architecture of American medicine was restructured in a single year by a man who made his fortune in oil, not medicine. And the world moved on inside a system built from a single commissioned document. The 1962 Kefauver-Harris Amendment. He wasn't just a senator pushing paperwork. Estes Kefauver was responding to one of the worst pharmaceutical disasters in modern history. In 1961, thalidomide prescribed to pregnant women across Europe caused severe birth defects in over 10,000 children. In 1962, the Kefauver-Harris Amendment passed, requiring proof of both safety and efficacy before any drug reached the market. On its surface, a necessary protection. Official explanation? The amendment established the modern drug approval framework. It has since prevented numerous dangerous compounds from reaching patients globally. But here's the problem. The clinical trial process now costs an average of $2.5 billion per drug. Natural substances, plants, peptides, mineral compounds cannot be patented. Without a patent, no private company can recover that investment. The result is structural. No financial pathway exists to clinically validate any treatment that nature produces freely. The amendment protected patients from dangerous drugs. It also permanently locked the door on every treatment nobody could own. And the world moved on, protected from the bad and equally protected from ever knowing about the rest. The NCI's own unfollowed research. This one didn't come from the outside. It came from inside the system itself. In the 1970s, the National Cancer Institute, the U.S. government's own cancer research body, funded by American taxpayers, conducted internal reviews of several plant-derived and microbial compounds showing measurable biological activity against cancer cells in early-stage testing. The compounds were documented, the activity was recorded, the files were closed. No clinical trial was initiated. No funding allocation followed. No press release was issued. Official explanation? Research prioritization is based on merit, resources, and probability of clinical success. But here's the problem. Several of those same compounds were independently identified years later by researchers in Japan, Germany, and South Korea. They were modified into patentable derivatives and developed into treatments used in clinical oncology today. The NCI had the original data before the overseas patents were filed. The funding went elsewhere. And the world moved on, paying for treatments built on discoveries their own government had already made and quietly set aside. Now step back. Different researchers, different decades, different countries, different diseases. The same outcome, single time. Max Gerson, a $100 million bill. 4 votes. Gone. René Caisse, 40 years, 55,000 signatures, 3 votes, filed away. Go. William Coley, 1,891, unstandardized, Nobel Prize, 2018. Same mechanism. Burzynski, MRI evidence, congressional record, trial, never funded. The NCI, documented first, patented, overseas, bought back, at full price. The 1962 Amendment, $2.5 billion wall. Pennies per dose on the other side. No meeting was held. No order was issued. The system did exactly what financial systems are designed to do. It funded what could be owned. It ignored everything else. Consistently, across decades, across diseases, across continents, without coordination, without conspiracy, without a single, deliberate order. What these discoveries shared was not bad science, it was bad economics. And the world moved on. The Nobel citations are real. The Senate hearing transcripts are real. The congressional testimony is real. The NCI internal records are real. The patent filings are real. What these 10 discoveries shared was not bad science. It was bad economics. Right now, today, there is a researcher in an underfunded university laboratory somewhere in the world. The data is real. The mechanism is documented. The compound costs a nickel to produce. The $2.5 billion wall is already in place before the paper is even submitted. No pharmaceutical company will fund it. No regulatory body will prioritize it. No journal will feature it above the studies backed by industry sponsorship. It will be reviewed, filed, and the funding will go elsewhere. So here is the question this evidence leaves behind. Not for the system, but for you. If you found the cure tomorrow and it cost a nickel, would anyone even let you tell us? Not because someone decided to hide it, but because no one had a financial reason to find it. A medical system built on profit cannot be expected to cure what it is more profitable to treat. That is not a conspiracy. That is a business model.